Today's episode is brought to you by Viralcast, the first and only completely done-for-you podcast production service. Build new relationships, create a deeper connection with your database, and get exposure to new audiences. Here's how it works. You interview influencers in your market. You start building that new relationship. Then you take that valuable content and share it with your database. Your guest then shares the content with their list. Everybody wins. You get new relationships, you create a deeper connection with your list, and get exposure to new people that you would never have access to. And look, if you're currently mining your database with video, stop. Audio is the new reality. We are living in an influence economy. Exposure is the new social capital. Go to Viralcast with a K to learn more. And right now, for the first 25 subscribers, we're offering a 50% off the getting started price. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Slagado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's up? How's your day going? Thanks for tuning in. If you're new, welcome. This show's growing like a weed. This is the #1 show for entrepreneurs, specifically for real estate agents. If you're growing a real estate business, this is your new home. We talk about how to build a business, pitfalls, where to win, how to win, strategies, tactics, all that stuff. If you don't sell real estate, that's okay. All the stuff we talk about applies to pretty much any business. Now, look, today's guest is a return guest, and he's a coach that doesn't believe in coaching. Here's what we talk about today. We talk about his background. He's got an interesting background. He went from being a commodities trader to owning professional sports teams, and then a broker, and now a coach. He helps people win. And his whole thesis when he wakes up in the morning, all he thinks about is how we can all make more money. And I think we can all agree, like, hey, that's what we wake up to do. It's either make more money or build a business or, build the life that we want to live. Now, what we talk about is the common mistakes people make in starting a business, the common mistakes people make in scaling business. We also talk about the difference between the startup personality and then transitioning into being a professional manager, right? Getting to scale once we have a team. We talk about the purposeful entrepreneur. And we talk about finding your why. And look, we all know growing a business is hard. But if we get it right, it's kind of like, we're all pushing on our business. If we get it right, we get to a point where it just becomes effortless. The business is running and we're just running alongside it. And then if we are fortunate and we do all the right stuff, we build a business that pulls us along. That's getting into that flow. That's where we want to be. All right. Now, a little housekeeping. If you haven't yet, go to superagentslive.com, download my book, get on my list. I share stuff with my list I don't share anywhere else. Speaking of coaching, again, because today's guest is a coach, check out schoolofprofit.com. That's our little group coaching program. And if you don't know what it is, what we try to do, so we do sessions with me. We also do sessions with, people like today's guest. Now, I will tell you, if you've been on the fence about it, sign up. Right now, we have a call scheduled June 2nd with Tom Ferry. So if you want, you can be live. We're going to record the show. We'll do the show, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So go there, check it out. Join the conversation here on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @SuperAgentsLive, and hashtag for the show is Unpack That Idea. All right, hey guys, let's get to it. Today on the show, I'm excited about today's guest. Now, today's guest is a previous guest. I had him on last year, but really, really an amazing guy with a really, really interesting background. And I'll just get to it here. We're starting a little bit late, so I'm thrilled to welcome my buddy Tom Rubens. Hey, Tom, thanks for taking the time out.
Hey, my pleasure, Toby. I'm really glad we're back together again.
For sure. Now, look, what the audience doesn't know is you have this really varied background. You've owned sports teams. You've done all kinds of stuff. Today, you're a coach, but with a slight bent. You don't believe in coaching. You're more of a consultant. So take a minute, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into what you're doing.
Well, basically, I've never had a job. I can say that I've made it through my entire prime earning years, never getting a paycheck. And there were many days that I kind of wished that I didn't take that path, but I've just always figured out different ways to make money, and that's what I've done. Whether I started out as a commodities trader, I went from that to sports. As you said, I put together a group of investors, and we bought minor league basketball team and then baseball teams, and then in and out of real estate a couple of times. First as an investor, and second as a broker. And I left real estate brokerage to start my coaching business, because really that's I love that every single day I get to talk about business. I get to talk about somebody's business and what's going right, what's going wrong, what do we need to change, how do we make more money. I mean, to me, that's just days don't get any better than that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, especially when you have a smart, motivated person on the other line. So, when you look at somebody's business, Tom, and you primarily on what you need to change. What do you think is that thing that you just see thematically over and over again, that just a common mistake people make in either getting their business off the ground, getting it to scale?
Well, I think the biggest problem I see with entrepreneurs is this, and that's whether they're real estate agents who are pure entrepreneurs, but some of them don't realize it. So whether it's a real estate agent, a manufacturer, owner of a security company, I don't care what their business is. It's generally somebody said, well, I'm really good at providing this product or service. I make really good widgets. I'm a police officer. Now I have a security company. I really know how to protect people. And they're really good at what they do, but they've never owned a business before. So their skill is in their product or service, but it is not in running a business. So the biggest issue that I frequently see is that obviously one thing we know they do is they spend too much time in the business rather than on the business. Yeah. But what they're doing is they just focus on, I've got a couple manufacturing clients that are great at delivering parts on time. But when it comes to managing, if they go from 4 or 5 machines to 50 machines, and that means 50 people at least if they've only got one shift, now all of a sudden they have to become managers, and that's not what they're good at. Or they have to they're dealing with cultural issues. How do I deal with it? I got a workforce that 30% of them show up late all the time. How do I deal with it? Well, right. They have no preparation for that. So that, I would say, is the biggest problem, that they're really good at what they do, but what they do is not. They have no business training at all. Right,
and I think and I think the other thing, an add-on to that, Tom, is that if you look at the tech, right? People go out, they're a really good coder. They go and raise a $1 million angel round, an A round, whatever. And oftentimes, especially with venture capital, there is a startup guy, and he's really good at doing the startup, but when it just like you're saying, when it comes to actually now managing a business, that's when they get, 70% of entrepreneurs that raise venture, they get kicked out by the time they get to the B round or C round.
Right.
How do, if somebody finds themselves in that boat and they're like, yeah, I'm really good at providing service X, where do and they're in the trenches, right? They're in warfare. They're doing it. They just started their company. How do you, what do you suggest people do to learn that skill on the fly?
Well, I don't think that there's any way around education. So look, let's use manufacturing as an example. So, okay, you started out, you got out of school, and you got a job, at a tool and die shop. And, okay, someone had to train you how to use that machine. And then you got really good at it, and they decided to put you on a more expensive machine. Well, somebody had to train you how to do that. So and then pretty soon you decided to get your own business. Now, who's going to train you to run your business? So I would say the thing that first of all, by the time they've contacted me, they've already accepted the fact that they need some help.
Right.
So the question is a little tough to answer, because I'm going to say the first thing they need is a coach.
Yep.
And I don't care what the business is. But that sounds self-serving for me to say that, but that's just the way it is. You're really good at what you do. You've started businesses before, and some worked out better than others. That's certainly my story. I've had some that were great success and some that failed. And as I look at the failures that I've had, I really could have used some help on that. Maybe that help might have been, Tom, it's a terrible idea. Don't do it. That would have been great help. But it could have saved. I can think of a couple occasions where that would have saved me a lot of money.
Yeah. So
I would always err on the side of getting more and more education.
And I'll tell you, the fail. I've had a bunch of wins and I've had a few losses or failures, and I think for me, Tom, the failures that I've had is mainly because I built the business, started the business for the wrong reason, and I can think of two of them. And it's all about, because I had the exit in mind. I started it because I knew what the exit was going to be, and those, I don't know if it's like not having the passion around it or what, but those are the ones for me that have failed.
That's so perfect, because while I do think that you do need to start with the end in mind, with the exit in mind, this is where I would go with what you just said. Look, if you coming into it for the wrong reason, for me, and this may be a little too woo-woo for some people, but if you open a business for the sole purpose of making a lot of money, it just doesn't seem to work out a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
You've got to have the idea that I have something to give. I have something that people not just want but need. And you know what? I can't wait to give it to them. I can't wait to help them. Now, if that's where you're starting, I mean, the chances, first of all, of course you're going to make money. You're going to be attracting money because your goal is to help people. There's a void in the marketplace, in whatever it is. I can come up with a better grass seed. Great. And then do that, and the market will acknowledge you. But if you come into the marketplace, whatever your business is like, man, I'm going to make a boatload of money on this. I just got to think about an idea where I can make lots of money. Oh, well, let's sell those. When I look at my life, look at my biggest failures, that's what it was. I was just thinking about making money.
Yep. No, me too. So how do you, I have a couple of questions for you, Tom. So if we go back to 2006, right, when the market was, or 2005, when the market was red hot in terms of real estate, everybody was getting their license, right? I mean, the girl that was bagging my groceries was going, I'm studying to get my, like everybody's doing that. Right. And I sort of feel like there's a lot of similarity between now and then. Would you, if you put on your coaching hat, and if somebody comes to you and says, look, real estate's an opportunity, blah, 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 and I'm going to do it because, the market's hot. I can make $30,000, selling $1 million house in San Diego. I mean, is that the wrong reason, or I don't know how to unpack that.
Yeah, to me, if that's why you are getting into real estate, first of all, why do you want to sell real estate? What is it that you bring to the party that the other 10 agents in your class don't bring? What are you adding to the marketplace? Right. Now, if you tell me, I just love dealing with people, or I'm telling you, I just have a really good eye. So when I work with residential buyers, I know that I can help them, especially those that may not have a great imagination. I love going in and out of houses. I can help them spot a deal. I can help them say, no, this house looks great now, but only because they've got all their furniture in it. Take that out and put in the junk that you've got in your house, and this place isn't going to look so good.
Right.
I can help them with it. Now, if you come at it with that energy, I'm fine. But if you come at it with, I just lost my job. I was working for GE for 20 years.
Right.
My uncle's brother's sister is a real estate agent. She makes ridiculous money, and she's an idiot. I can do that. If you come at with that energy, I'm going to say probably not really the time for you to enter that business because you'll get buried.
So, look, one of the common questions I get, from my listeners is, it's basically this: transitioning into selling real estate full time. Whether that, and there's two kind of entries for that, right? One is, the chef that goes, hey, I'm making $75,000 a year, but I never get to see my wife. So, as soon as I can sell real estate and match my current income, then I'm going to go full time. And I'm like, so that's one kind of entry point. And the other entry point is, hey, I only have 2 months runway. But I'm selling real estate part time. Well, so I'm sure that's a common question you get.
Sure.
So how do you answer that?
I answer that with, look, how are you possibly going to compete? You're doing this part time. It's like, okay, let's say you said to me, Tom, I am a really good golfer. Let's say you're 45 years old. Okay. I'm an amazing golfer. I don't lose. I play at the club. I never lose. And I think I could make it on the senior tour. I'm going to say to you, okay, look, here's the deal. No question, you're the best golfer I've ever played with. Okay. So let's look around. You're 45 years old. Do you think you could beat Steve Stricker? Because that's who's going to be your competition in 5 years. He's doing this every day and has been doing it every day since he was 5. You can't you're telling me that you go out and you play a few times. Even if you tell me you play every day, there's a big difference between what you're doing now and playing for real. And the same thing is true in real estate. You want to tell me that, okay, great, you think you can sell a couple houses this month and make $20,000, make $30,000. Great. Can you sustain that? Because if you gave me kind of two questions. One is if I've got a two month runway.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're going to need a longer runway than that because you're competing with professionals who have been doing this for a long time and are deeply committed. So if you're telling me I've got 2 months to make it happen, I'd say save your time and do something else. Now, if you're telling me that you're really committed to a transition to this business, because most people get into this business at a transition point in their life.
Yep.
It's not, I graduated from college and got my real estate license. Now, I've met some young guys who have done that and young women who have done that and been successful, but they're the outlier, really.
Yep.
It's mostly people are getting into this after some other business didn't work out or they saw an opportunity. And to those people, I would say, forget a 2 month runway because you need a 12-month runway. And because I believe you may make some money. I'm not saying you're not. You may, a blind squirrel finds an acorn. You may find a $50,000 deal out there. That's great. But if you're not putting money back into your business, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on the internet, if you're not marketing yourself, and if you think, by the way, that marketing is free, forget about it. I don't care how free Facebook is. You still have to be spending money. So I'd say if you can live for 12 months and invest every dime you make in back into the business, then I think you got a shot.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's so. If I back up, and I would agree with everything you're saying here, Tom. So if I back up, you said, okay, listen, you have to have a number one sort of a passion, right? You got to be passionate about helping someone. You got to be passionate about, thinking you have a good eye, whatever that is. And then in addition to that, on top of that, you have to have your own unique selling, your USP, something that's going to be your differentiator. How do you suggest people go about looking at the market and then coming up with a differentiator to those professionals that are out there? They've been doing it for the last 10 years.
That's a tough one to ask sort of in a vacuum because it's going to depend on the personality of the person. But I can tell you one exercise that I do with my clients relative to that. Okay. And it may sound kind of weird, but so I believe that we really need to figure out who our ideal client is. So you need to know, look, okay, you're an agent and I'm an agent and we're in the same office. But you tend to connect, for whatever reason, you tend to connect with the 30 to 40-year-olds, buying their first move-up house. That seems to be where you connect. For whatever reason, I tend to do really well with seniors. So we can both be hugely successful without really stepping on each other's toes. So one exercise that I do is I say, okay, Toby, tell me who your ideal client is, and I'm gonna get really specific, and you're gonna write down who your ideal client is. You're gonna tell me, oh, it's a boomer, or no, not a boomer. It's a 30 to 45-year-old couple, a couple of kids moving up from 2,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. Okay, I want more information. Tell me what's his job, what's her job, how old are their kids. And I want to get really specific. Here's how specific I want you to get. I want you to tell me my client is a couple. They are 42 years old. They have 2 kids, ages 10 and 13. And one of them has special needs. And he has a job in tech, and she is a physician. Then I want you to okay, what do they look like? And here's what I go to Facebook and you'll feel like you're stalking for a while, but go to Facebook and find somebody who fits that parameter, and then go to their friends. And I want you to pick out a couple pictures of him and her. Hopefully you don't know these people, but pick the pictures, copy them. I want those pictures on your screen, on your screen, so that every time you turn on your computer, you see those 2 people. And every time you write an ad, every time you write any kind of copy, anytime you go on radio, TV, or anywhere, I want you just speaking to those 2 people. That's how I kind of would start this process with them. So that they're.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's a great exercise. And I, before we started recording this, we talked about, somebody we both know mutually, which is John Lee Dumas. And John talks about this a lot too. He says, he says, create your avatar, right? What do they look like? Where do they shop? What are their hobbies? What kind of music do they listen to? Like, really make this person real to you. And I think, again, like the whole woo-woo thing, I think, Tom, that if you can have that clearly in your mind, I think you can start to attract that. I think your own personal radar starts to get attuned to these people, and when you look at a crowd, like, you're just keyed into them.
Absolutely. Well, John Lee Dumas is an excellent example. So that, because the what I just told you is a hybrid of an exercise that he does and someone else that I know does. It's the same. Look, exactly. Because if I know what kind of music they're listening to, for example, if I know what books they're going to read, I know where to advertise.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, years ago, I used this exercise, and it's kind of funny, I decided that my ideal client was a 42-year-old woman with red curly hair. So, because that seemed to be, I had most of my clients at that time, at least over half of my clients were women, and they were around in their early 40s. So I decided, okay, and the red curly hair I added by myself. So I said, okay, this is what she looks like. I did exactly well, the first thing I did was, I Googled 42-year-old redhead. I just Googled, because I see some pictures of 42-year-old redheads. It took me straight to a porn site. So that was not going to work. So then I came up with the idea of going to Facebook, and I went to Facebook friends who were about that age. I found this woman who was 42 years old with red curly hair. I took her picture, and I used to do a lot of videos at that time. Her picture was right on top of my camera, so that I was talking to her I've never met her. I have no idea what her name is even, but I talked to her every time I did a video. Because I wanted to remind myself, because it's so easy when you start a business. In real estate, you're going to, look, I will deal with anybody. Just give me a warm body. I want to show houses today. And that, I get that's how we all start, but that's not how you succeed. Focus on who you're going to connect with. And so I talked to her. Every video, I was talking to her. I never got off track. I never thought about, I'm not going to, so when I'm talking to her, I'm not going to use a football metaphor.
Right.
I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to honor her. And so if I had one thing to say to new agents, it's really pick a target. I know that you're going to cheat, Because if your target is 42-year-old women and an 80-year-old man tells you he wants to sell his mansion, you're going to sell it. But target, focus on your target.
Okay, that I think that's awesome advice. Now, if we jump into for everybody, Tom is the founder of the Accountability Factor. That's currently what he's doing. You do coaching, you do group coaching. How do you look? Here's the thing, man. I've had all the big coaches on here, right? From Tom Ferry to Bob Corcoran, everybody's been on, and I commonly ask them what coaching is to them. So if I asked you to explain that, how would you explain that, the notion of coaching? And then I want to talk about it a little bit.
First of all, it's a great question, and I've never been asked it quite that way. But my answer to you is this. I think that the best coaches are the best listeners. So I'm not going to go. I would never encourage someone to go to a coach that's going to pontificate. If I'm doing my job, I would say that the key skill that I bring to the party as a coach is that I listen for a number of reasons. One, I really want to hear what you have to say, but when you're with someone who, in our daily lives, when you're with someone who really hears you, you feel really honored. You feel, wow, he or she I said this and she really got it. Wow, that feels great. So the first thing I want to do is put you at ease and know that you're heard. And from that point, I think the best coaches are the ones that can, empathy. If you don't have that in deep reserve, coaching isn't really for you, because I don't think of coaching as telling you what to do. You call me up, Tom, my business sucks, my life sucks, my kids just ran away, what do I do? And then I spend 45 minutes telling you what to do. That doesn't serve you. It really doesn't serve you. We got to figure out, why did your kids run away? Well, at least from your perspective, what happened? We got to put this whole thing back together again. And you, by the way, are the one that have all the answers. I mean, it's true in real estate. Yeah, I might be able to give you some pointers that you hadn't thought of before. But the bottom line is, you know what you need to do to succeed. We all do. And the problem is that we don't all do it all the time. So sometimes what you might need, and I speak as a coach because I need this myself sometimes, I just need someone to remind me why I'm doing this. Because, when we struggle, everything seems so hard. But when we came up with this business idea, it seemed so easy. I mean, we could see in the future this huge bit of success and joy that we were going to get. And now, in the midst of it, man, this is getting really tough. So you need to be heard. I have to remind you why you got into this business. And so if I had to say anything that coaches, when I hear of someone who's coach he told me what to do, I say, well, that really isn't coaching to me, because we can call your uncle. He'll tell you what to do. I mean, we all have friends who think who are oh God, why are you dating that guy, or why are you doing this? That's not coaching. That's just telling people what to do. And I definitely don't do that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'll tell you, how I have two coaches, and one's Bob Corcoran and the other guy. But I fundamentally, man, I use Bob to bounce stuff off of, and a lot of time, and there's so much power to be able to talk to someone that I respect, and just throw stuff at him. And Bob will give me his opinion, but it's so helpful. And my other coach, I swear, man, I just use that guy as therapy. And he just sits there just like, and I just talk to him. And again, at the end of the day, at the end of our session, like I figured it out myself. And even though it's something that all week long, man, I've been like going back and forth, there's power in that. It's amazing.
Well, what you described that's a perfect hybrid. You've just created it with two people. But yes, there are times as a coach, and Bob coached me for a while. I think he is great. And you're right. You picked something he's really good at. I mean, he's good at a lot of things, but you picked that one, which I love doing. I just bounce ideas off him. I remember telling Bob, what my vision was for the next year of my life, and he helped me make it happen in 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
So, yeah, absolutely. Bob is a guy that's he's going to make pretty strong suggestions. He's got strong opinions. And there's also a place for, okay, Toby, I hear you. I absolutely hear that's what you're saying, and we can take this in a number of different directions. But let's look at this, that, and the other first. Before I tell you what to do, let's look at this, that, and the other. And pretty soon you're going to say, yeah, Tom, I got it. Catch you later.
Right.
Because and most of the time, I'm sure, in your conversations with Bob, he's going to probably recommend something that you knew was a good idea. Maybe even before he said it. But just hearing him say it, the way the confidence with which he delivers his opinion, makes you feel, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm good. That makes sense to me now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's validation, I mean, even me with all the stuff that I've done, there's, when somebody like yourself or Bob can validate, my strategy, my idea, whatever. There's, for me, man, I sleep better at night. I go, okay, Tom thought it was a good idea. That's great. Bob thought it was a good idea. That's great. I'm going to do it. And then I think that for me, Tom, is when I can have a guy like you, or Bob validate my idea, that for some reason I can act on that so much more powerfully. I don't know if and I put it into motion, and I believe it at my core more, and because of that, right, I have a higher chance of success.
Right. Well, here, you use such a good word, Toby. It's validation. We validate people, and that's part of what empathy is. It's part of, you come to me with an idea, and when I validate it, when I reinforce it, yes, of course it makes you sleep better at night. Yeah, okay, yes. Because really, when we do a good job of validating, what we do is we not only say, yeah, Toby, great idea, but we repeat the idea back. I repeat the idea back to you. And then say, wow, that sounds great, doesn't it? And then you've gotten my validation, you've got your own validation, and I use that, I don't use that word when I'm coaching, but I use that experience. My clients experience validation all the time. That's I'm so glad you used that word.
Thanks, man.
It's essential. It's essential.
So I want to go back. I want to go back to the notion of the avatar. We have to start wrapping up because you and I started late. But I want to get your take on something now. There's a fantastic book, and later I'm going to ask you for a book recommendation. But there's a fantastic book by Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine. Have you read that book?
I read that book a long time ago. But don't ask me any questions because I can see the cover, but I can't say that I remember.
Yeah, that's okay.
It was.
Well, and I just want to get your take, because you going back to your avatar, that 42-year-old redhead, when you're doing a video, you're talking to her. Now, one of the things that Chet in the book recommends, he says, create your dream 100, right? So you're like, you've created your ideal client. And then what Chet will say is create your dream client and put those, find the name in your industry, in your market, put them down and focus on meeting them and doing business with them. And, I just want to get your take on, with creating your clients, come up with your ideal client and then going after and chasing that dream client. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, let me just address what you just said in a slightly different way. I think that's a great idea. So let's apply it to real estate. And so I'm new in the business, and you are the hero in our market. You're the best. Acknowledged. You do more business than anybody else. Now, most people, when they enter the business, are going to be scared out of their minds of you. They're going to think, maybe he's so good I should try another business.
Right.
But they're going to be scared of you. Every time that they go up for a listing and they know that you're up for the same listing, they're going to bail because I can't beat him. So my approach to that would be, first of all, I want to get as close to you as possible. I want to show your listings. I want to meet you. I want to, even if we're different brokerages, let's assume we're different brokerages, I'm going to call and until you say yes, I'm going to ask you to lunch or breakfast or dinner or whatever it is you eat. and I'm going to tell you everything. Look, I just really admire what you're doing. I'd like to know how you did it. And most people, I don't care if they're your competition. Most people are kind of disarmed by that. And you just call them up and tell them how wonderful they are. Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can take me to lunch. Matter of fact, if you're going to spend another hour telling me how wonderful that's really great. But and they watch you emulate them, and obviously you got to do it with integrity. It doesn't mean going out and stealing their business, but it absolutely does mean. I just want you to know, Toby, I'm watching you. I really admire you. I am learning from you from afar, and this lunch, breakfast, dinner is a chance for me to thank you in advance for all I know I'm going to learn from you. To me, if I were starting the business, I'd pick the biggest cheese in my market, and they're probably not going to say yes for a while, but keep trying.
No, I agree. I think that's fabulous, fabulous advice. And I think the thing is, I think what most people fail to realize is that top producers, people like you, they're pretty easy. I mean, they will share with you.
Yes.
And I think people, I don't think they realize it. They go, oh man, that guy's a big guy. I'm a little guy. He's not going to even take my phone call. And he may not take your first call. But if you keep lobbing calls in, send him a handwritten note, sooner or later, they're going to, and so that moves me into my next thing, right? So I'm going to ask you two questions. This is not good as an interviewer, but number one, tell us an example of when you did that. And then, were you able to get those people to actually mentor you along the way?
What's funny you ask that. I'll tell you when I did that. It was long before I ever got in real estate is when I learned this lesson. It was in sports. I decided to buy a minor league basketball team. It was the Continental Basketball Association. I decided to buy this team before I had ever been to a CBA game. In fact, I only knew that the initials for the acronym for the league were CBA. I didn't even know what it stood for, but I had decided to buy the team, or buy a team. I actually bought an expansion franchise. So what I did was I called the commissioner of the league. This was a long enough time ago that nobody had websites, so I got the name and phone number for every owner in the league. And I called them up. Hey, Toby, my name's Tom Rubens. I know you're the owner of the San Diego Flames. I'm going to buy a team and put it in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Have you got a couple minutes to talk? And generally it would be a grudging yes. Okay, yeah, fine. Because these are all guys and women that had different businesses. The sports team was not their primary business. And I'd say, I had a set list of questions. So how are you guys doing? Did you make money last year? They answered the question. At first was, did you make money or lose money? They all lost money. How much? Why? What did you do wrong? What did you do right? This conversation generally took the shortest one was about 3 minutes, where the guy said, I spent $400,000 a year on this team and I still can't make money. And then he proceeded to tell me he didn't want to talk to me anymore. Well, but what did I learn from that guy? Everybody else's budget was over $1 million. He's telling me he's only spending $400,000 a year. Well, of course that's why he's losing money. But I asked this of every single owner, and they were all gracious enough to answer. Now, we weren't competition in that we were only competition on the court. I mean, we didn't compete in the same market like real estate agents do. But you know what? It's the same thing. They were honored that I called them. Each of them said, wow, no one has ever bought a team and called me to ask me that question.
Right.
No one. And it was huge help to me.
And I think the other thing, that's great. That's great. And I think the other thing that you get out of that, certainly this has been my experience with this show, is that all of a sudden, Tom Rubens in this little world, right, of owners, like all of a sudden, like you're the guy, like, hey, have you heard this Tom Rubens guy? So all of a sudden you get a little cachet because now everybody knows you and everybody's talking about you.
Yeah, like, wow, that was weird. Did you get a call from him? Yeah, I did too. Exactly.
Yeah, again, that's what this show does for me. So again, we have to start wrapping up. Okay. We only have a few more minutes. So I always ask for a book recommendation. I'm very curious as to, what somebody like you reads or what you recommend to read. So look, here's the setup, Tom. I'm an aspiring agent. Okay. I have $25. What book should I go buy today?
Wow. Okay, well, first, you should know that in my office, there's certain books that I buy 10 at a time. I just buy them 10 at a time, and I look for people to give them to, whether they're clients or not. So I'm going to kind of cheat. Because if you told me you only had $25 to spend on books, I would say, keep your $25, but here are the books I'm going to give you.
Got it.
And I would say if you're a real estate agent, there are 2.5. The third one is just a book that I think everybody should read. But the first one is, I'll pick one that's written by a real estate, The One Thing, by Gary Keller.
Yep.
Great book. But again, not only for real estate agents. I buy this 10 at a time for any client. They get this book when we start. The One Thing. It's a great book to keep you on task and keep you focused. And a similar book that has really been helpful to me, and I think you told me you've had Hal on the show, The Miracle Morning. Great book, particularly for someone who's like not getting all that they, I like to think of people who are sometimes underutilized assets. If they're not really using all the skills that they've got, I send them to The Miracle Morning. And another book so I bet if you asked a lot of real estate people, you'd get those two books. But this next book, maybe you wouldn't. And I just think it's been a huge help to me and to my clients. It's called The War of Art. Do you know who Stephen Pressfield is?
I do. Yep.
Yeah, well, The War of Art, this is probably the first book that I bought in bulk was The War of Art, because it's about creativity. And if anyone tries to tell you that real estate is not a creative business, they're nuts. I mean, we have to be constantly on the creative. We have to create. We're creating money. We're creating revenue. We're creating businesses out of nothing. We have to create a back office, whatever it is that we're doing. So, and I think this book, The War of Art, is one of the best books I've ever read. So I would give you those three. And if you wanted a fourth, I'd probably give you Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect.
Yeah. I've read all those, and they're all great. And listen, for everybody. And look, here's the funny thing about pretty much all these books. If you The One Thing, it's an old concept. There's been other books written, but he packaged it in such a way. Same thing with all Hal did was he took what was currently out there and said, listen, all these morning strategies, I'm just going to put them all together in one. He just packaged them up. Yeah. And The War of Art.
Absolutely. I even said that to Hal. I said, it's not like there's anything brand new in this book.
Yeah.
And I'm not insulting you when I say this. It's the way you have presented it that makes it impossible to look away. I have to pay attention to the way you have presented this. That's pretty much true. And Darren Hardy's book, same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like he's telling you anything new. You knew that. You knew that if you put one foot in front of the other, you'd get where you wanted to go. But the problem is you stop. I think he says something like, it's not what you do. It's not about what you do when you hit the wall. It's what you do after you hit the wall.
Yeah. And I think there's one nugget that really popped out for me in Darren's book is the fact that he said, listen, can you get 1% better today? Right? Personally, professionally, whatever you want. Can you get 1% better? And if you can get 1% better every day at the end of the year, you're 365% better. Right?
I know. Yeah.
So, and listen, sorry, just
no. They're all. Every one of those books is so crazy simple that you can say to yourself, "Now, why didn't I write that? I knew that." Yeah. Well, no, you did. You may have known it, but you have not been able to either articulate it or live it, and that's why these books are so helpful.
I love it. And so, listen, everybody out there listening, if you want to get, I agree with Tom. All these are great books. If you want to get a copy of The One Thing by Gary Keller, Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, or The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, get a free copy on us. Just use our link. Go to audibletrial.com/superagentslive and get a free copy. Hey, Tom, listen, man, here's the deal. I always recommend my audience, if they've gotten anything out of this, to reach out and to say thank you for you. Where can people, number one, find you and find out more about what you're doing out there?
Best place would be to go to my website, which is The Accountability Factor. It's the name of my company, is The Accountability Factor, and you can go to theaccountabilityfactor.com. If you're spelling challenged and you can't remember how to spell the accountability, just go to tafactor.com.
Yep, tafactor.com. Yep, and listen, everybody.
TAFactor or theaccountabilityfactor.com, and you can reach me there.
And all this stuff will be on the show notes, just in case you're driving, walking your dog, or whatever. It'll all be on the show notes. Just go to superagentslive.com/10 Tom Rubens. Hey, Tom, listen, man, I'll be the first one to kick off the thank you train. I know you're a busy guy. You're doing tons of stuff, helping lots of people out there. I appreciate you taking the time out and sharing with my audience.
Well, hey, and right back at you, Toby. What you do is so cool. I love it from the service that you provide, as well as it's a stellar business model, and I really admire that you and I. I told you that I give these. If you had $25, and I said no, I'd give somebody the books, and bingo, you just gave all 4 of them away. So that's what life is all about. Is just giving it back. So you just did that in a big way. Thank you for what you do for everybody in this business. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. All right, buddy. Hey, listen, I gotta get to my next one, but let's keep in touch. I do want to have a follow-up conversation about some of the stuff we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I'd love to. I absolutely love to.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Take care, man. See ya. Bye-bye.
This show is produced by me, Toby Slagado, with help from our research team and production done by Viralcast. If you're building a team and want to make sure you're doing it the most efficient way, reach out to Corcoran Coaching. They coach 83 of the nation's top producing teams. And for our listeners, they'll give you a free business evaluation. Send an email to bubba@corcorancoaching.com and let them know I told you guys to call.
Let's go.